Hey, good afternoon, everyone. How's it going? Good. Well, this is the PD Math and Science Bureau. We are facilitating this session on building and sustaining equitable outdoor initiatives aligned to the instructional scopes. We'll do introductions first. My name is Shafiq. I'm the director of the Math and Science Bureau at the Public Education Department. I'll pass it over to Trish.
Hi everyone, my name is Trish Garrity and I am Assistant Director of Math and Science. I do whatever he tells me to do. And I also am the Program Manager for Outdoor Learning.
So, these are our learning outcomes for this session today. So, part of the session is Trish will lead us through kind of the outdoor learning initiative that she's been building for the past year and a half at the agency. Look at how that has expanded across the state. Learn some takeaways from other grantees. And then part of the session will then dive into the New Mexico instructional scopes, which are the guidance documents for supporting math and science, also Spanish language arts, social studies instruction in the state, and how that could be brainstorm some ways that could be used for interdisciplinary instruction back at your school sites. Okay, I'm going to stop here and I'm going to pass it over to Trish.
Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about outdoor learning and how to incorporate it in interdisciplinary academic subjects. So a little bit of a personal story. So before this position, I was an administrator at a KE school in Santa Fe, and it was during COVID time. So I think I started in, I'm trying to think, it was my second year of being an administrator as principal, because I was an assistant principal before then. So it was my second year and COVID started, and it was insanely stressful, as you all know. So we have 700 kids at our school, and we started bringing them back. And so, the first priority is just to keep everybody safe. Teachers were scared, kids were nervous but excited. They wanted to play, they wanted to touch each other, be all over each other. So number one priority, keep them safe. So my thought was, let's go outside. We had a big, beautiful campus, 17 acres, but it was pretty, we had playground equipment, but it was pretty barren, right? So we were trying to figure out how we can get this going. So the first thing that we did is we brought the whole school, or at least the kids that were back in school, and they built their own outdoor classroom with materials, that were donated and whatnot, and things that we bought from the district. So they built their own outdoor classroom and they rotated through so they could use it. The second thing that we did is, because there wasn't a whole lot on our campus, some of the teachers decided to partner up with some of the groups in Santa Fe, like the Audubon Center, and they used that resource to learn about the land, right? So they walked around, they learned about the native plants, they learned about the insects, they labeled everything, and wild animals that came through there. We were in a rural area, but we just had a big lot. So there was lots of coyotes and squirrels and whatnot that would go through there. So the kids would look for those footprints and watch the tracking. So that was one way. So there's your interdisciplinary with not only just regular education, but that science component especially, right? Maybe your social studies component. Another thing that we did was our 7th graders, we had an arroyo that kind of went in front of our school. And like I said, because it was a rural area, there was neighborhoods, there's houses all around, but the ATVs and dirt bikes would go through the arroyo, right? And the kids would they were really upset about that because it was tearing up their property. So they started to learn about the arroyo for one. Why was it dry? How did it get formed? And decided to do a whole social justice movement on advocating for, getting those dirt bikes and ATVs out of there. The school I was at was called Nina Otero Community School. And during this time in 2021, we came out with a quarter for Nina Otero. And so that was really cool because there was a whole, social studies, history lesson on top of that. But then the kids were able to go outside and they created a huge mural on the outside of the school. And with that, they had to measure, pace. So there's your interdisciplinary. So it was pretty cool. So that was like sort of my personal experiences in the schools as an outdoor learning educator. One last thing that we did during COVID, we had a teacher pass away. And so the kids wanted to create a peace garden, and what they actually did was build a labyrinth. So again, there's all those activities that you can incorporate with that. So of course, today we're gonna focus on math and science. But I want to also give you a brief history of the outdoor and environmental education policies in New Mexico. And just a brief overview. In 2012 was the establishment of the Outdoor Education Bill of Rights. 2013 to 2015, the Environmental Literacy Plan was created, which built a foundation of outdoor education for students. In 2020, we had Every Kid, Every Day, Every Way. This was during COVID, and it also established and outlined the importance of outdoor education for students. And 2022, the Cradle to Career New Mexico Strategy Report was released by Outdoor Recreation Division. Okay, so now, within the state agency, we are the Outdoor Learning Initiative underneath the Math and Science Bureau. Within the past few years, we've gained an outdoor learning specialist. We funded 16 new programs across the state, but we just funded 9 more. We established 3 communities of practice, a working group, statewide PLCs, and we also have an asynchronous online Canvas course. So, our hope is that the momentum keeps going and we keep growing. Just a few definitions. These are PED definitions that have been established for outdoor learning. Environmental education. Again, there's that word interdisciplinary. We want to bring in all the subjects as much as possible when we take kids outside. Outdoor learning or outdoor education is a broad interdisciplinary set of activities. There's discovery, experimentation, learning about, connecting to the outdoors and natural world. And then an outdoor classroom can be a shelter or a space. This is our most recent definition. We worked the majority of the year last year in building this definition with a working group. So there's lots of different definitions for place-based education that you'll find, but this is specific to New Mexico, and it was built and created by New Mexico educators, outdoor educators. So community and place-based education engages New Mexico land and cultures as the starting point for learning within all academic subjects, ensuring that the curriculum is deeply connected to the local community and students' identities, cultures, and experiences. This approach provides community-connected instruction that infuses high-level content, inquiry-based learning, and problem-solving with real-world learning opportunities, increasing academic achievement and engagement, and improving the individual and collective health, and building pride in oneself in the state of New Mexico. So it's a mouthful, but I feel like it just incorporates everything that we want, the essence of outdoor learning for us. One of the things that the working group did a couple of years ago, they, as a collaborative group, decided that outdoor learning standards weren't going to work. We had to incorporate all those other aspects. And so they came up with these action items for teachers and outcomes for students. And I just want to highlight the second one. So that Action items for teachers where we integrate culturally sustaining, social, emotional, interdisciplinary outdoor education that are aligned with content standards. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today, is looking at the New Mexico instructional scope and the standards and how can we bridge those two things. And then so the outcomes for students is developing that cultural competence and emotional intelligence through standards aligned interdisciplinary experiences. And if you're familiar with the instructional scope at all, you know that it does have a cultural component to it.
So we come back to this diagram just to reiterate that outdoor education and all these disciplines are interrelated in one way or another. And so we want to take some time today to explore ways of interconnecting content with outdoor learning experiences that you may utilize in your back at your campuses or school sites. And so we'll first talk a little bit about the instructional scopes. And so the instructional scopes were developed in 2000, I think starting in 2020 during the middle of the pandemic. This is primarily a document, for educators, developed for educators by educators. This document helps to provide guidance to educators, instructional staff on how to support on grade level content instruction at different grade levels or content areas, whether it is 6th grade math to high school biology and everything in between, or everything down to kindergarten to algebra 2. The instructional scope was based on the idea of supporting educational equity for all students, so that no matter where a student is across the state, that through high quality instruction, every student has the opportunity to engage in a guaranteed, viable, equitable instruction. So this sets the foundation for high quality instruction. We're going to take some time to dive into two different samples of the instructional scope. And so underneath your folder, you should have a handout. It's just a 2-page handout. So it's just this handout. It should be underneath your folder or inside the folder. Now, if you prefer to utilize digital technology, we do have a QR code here and then also a bit.ly link if you want to access the document electronically. Whether you look at the math instructional scope or the science instructional scope, we'll give you examples here in a few minutes. You'll see that both documents are structured similarly. They have similar tenets across them both. The content areas might not be formatted the same, but they contain similar information. So I'm gonna ask you to take a look at your note capture. So it's the first staple document. So your note capture. You'll notice that the note capture is 2 pages and it's broken up into different sections. Across the top, you're gonna see kind of our column headers, resource, and then some questions we're gonna engage through the session today. What is this resource's intent? How can this section improve student learning in an actionable, sustainable way? How can this section create equitable change for all student learners? And so I'm going to invite you to focus on the first row, which is just the content standards section. Standards breakdown section. And either looking at the math or science or both. Let's take the next minute and a half just to focus on the standards breakdown section and make some notes around the first question in that second column. What is the intent of this section? And I'm going to pose the same question. So the next portion we're going to explore is the assessment guide section. So you'll see that that is, oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, it's on the back. Sorry about that. It's on the back. Section 4, assessment guide. So on the second page, assessment guide will be our next component. So we encourage you to, we'll just work on the question in the first column. You're welcome to look at either the math or the science instructional scope. And take some time to look at how the classroom assessment guide section was designed, and what do you think the intent of the educators were in developing this portion of the instructional scope. Again, feel free to take any notes down in that first column. We're just going to focus on the first column for now, and then we'll have some time to go through the next two sets. I want us to take a moment to look back at, from both groups, look at different sections. So I invite the group that had the CLR, that looked at the CLR section, to just talk through those three big questions and what were some of the big takeaways as you investigated that section. I think it was the group here at table 4.
So we kind of just talked about the way that section is a framework for how to support and incorporate like interdisciplinary teachings, I guess, for that standard. So.
And how to connect real world applications to what they're doing.
Yeah, the CLR component, the CLR section really is the hands-on, real-world applicability component, bringing it in the home language and home knowledge back into classrooms. Anything else to share for that section? Okay, all right, thank you. And then the other people, you looked at the MLSS and UDL component, the UDL components in the instructional scope. Were there any big takeaways from that as you looked through the sections and analyzed it against the 3 questions? Like what the intent was, the sustainability, how does it support equitable instruction?
I think your name, Jennifer?
Jennifer, yes.
Jennifer, I think she brought up the kind of the idea of like these are designed to help all of our students, and if it helps one student, it's good to influence just across the board, because it will help every other student that's not identified as needing it, or you hit on more than one way in different times and stuff like that. It just makes it better for students overall.
Right. Yeah, because we were talking about universal design learning and how their model is, if we have a student on an IEP and we have something very specific we have to target or do for them. So maybe it's an app that we have to overlay for reading out loud or something, that even though we give it to one student, it's good for all the students, because you may have students in your classroom not yet identified with a similar problem, but they're still getting help, and assistance with that. So what's good for one is good for everybody is basically what they train us on and talk about, and then tools and strategies.
Thank you both. Thank you. No.
So good, I hope that activity was helpful for you all, just to kind of go through the instructional scope. And please remember, it's a tool that you can all use throughout the year, and it's on the PED website. And also, all the other subjects that should be set are on there too. So I wanted to highlight a couple of New Mexico schools that utilize outdoor learning aligned with interdisciplinary academics. As I mentioned before, we have been able to fund with this year 25 schools with startup grants, and the grants are up to $50,000. And so these 3 schools were accepted the grant funding the past couple of years. And so I'm going to talk about Deep, Naka, and Santa Rosa High School. So the first goal I want to talk about is DEEP. So DEEP, they have a strong outdoor learning initiative that advances their experiential education and community engagement. So what they did last year is actually build a greenhouse and with the kids, and so the kids had to, again, measure everything, create the construction, and then they helped build it. So the interior construction is it's a year-round facility that supports plant cultivation and agricultural experiments equipped with advanced irrigation, climate control, and workspaces. So you can imagine all the work that goes into that. The greenhouse promotes sustainable agricultural practices and food sovereignty. And so again, it's a cultural aspect, and it aligns with DEEP's mission. So and it also makes a direct connection to the linguistic component of the NMIS. The next school that I want to highlight is NACA. NACA is the Native American Community Academy, and they have prioritized outdoor experiential education for several years. They help students reconnect to the land. They help them build deep knowledge of their indigenous approaches. And they provide ongoing intentional professional development opportunities for teachers so they can effectively integrate and use outdoor experiential learning approaches across all coursework. So this was 2 years ago. No, this was last year, I'm sorry. All high school students participated in lessons in a full semester. So they built and cultivated a hydroponic garden. It was supported by their land-based learning team and science instructors. They also participated in Wellness Friday lessons titled Water as Our Living Relative. All students participated in outdoor learning opportunities throughout the year. So they all went on field trips on and off campus. They participated in lessons using the school gardens, they have a main hydroponic garden and a high school terrace with garden boxes and a school hoop house. So they partnered with the Bosque Science Lab at New Mexico Tech to help them test water and understand their environmental influences. So you can see the science, again, that's wrapped up into that. And then finally, we have Santa Rosa High School, and this is from last year. Santa Rosa held a math boot camp where they combined with outdoor learning, and the ultimate goal was to create a pathway from their school to the Pecos River. So as part of the boot camp, Santa Rosa, they had incoming freshmen revisit their concept of measurement and geometry. They had them create squares from concrete and that they're used in the outdoor learning spaces as well. Another project that they did was groups of students used an improvised clinometer that they used to measure the height of particular objects in the outdoors. So students would read the kilometer and measure the angle formed by the taut string. So again, the students had to accomplish outdoor learning using geometry with algebraic expressions. So you can kind of see how you can intertwine outdoor learning with your core content areas. Sometimes you have to be a little bit creative, but it's something that we're willing to help you and brainstorm with too. One resource that we do have is our outdoor learning Canvas course. So it's for beginning teachers for outdoor learning, and it covers lots of different subjects, including the alignment with academic subjects, social emotional learning, cultural and linguistic teaching and learning, and safety in the outdoors. And this is a self-paced course. And so if you're interested, there's a QR code up there, or you can get a hold of any of us and we can help you register for it. And again, it's self-paced, and you can share it with your colleagues as well.
Can I add one thing, Trish?
Yes.
I'll just say the team worked really long and hard to develop this course as a way of building confidence amongst educators, instructional staff, or school site administrators in developing an outdoor learning program at a school site. Because the whole goal is by the end of the course, if you take it individually or as a team, you'll have developed a plan for supporting an outdoor learning program at your site. So it's really worth going through it as part of a team, so that everyone has that same common learning experience, and then your product is like a plan that you could take to administration or higher level, higher ups to advocate for the implementation of an outdoor learning program. Our team was very intentional in thinking about how to expand that.
And even though it's a self-paced course, we are more than happy to go through any part of it with you and help facilitate part of it, or or respond to questions or brainstorm with you.
Kind of our last slide. We appreciate you coming, and here's our contact information. I know a lot of people talked about wanting to access some of the grants. We do have there's a curated list of grants that are still available, so we're happy to share that information if you want to just follow up with us after the session today. I'm more than happy to share that list with you. And so thank you for coming. We appreciate it. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference today and tomorrow.